Hello, 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 everyone. I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford, and welcome to the Inside the EBS School. That's the EntreMD Business School. Today, we have one of our esteemed students, and she's going to really knock us out about what it's been like for the last 21 days that she's been in the school. But before we get into that part, we're really going to have her introduce herself. She's going to tell us about her business and her location. Go ahead, Doc.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for just bringing me on and allowing me to be a part of this new podcast. I'm Dr. Maiysha Clairborne. I'm a family physician by training, and I actually help healthcare organizations create psychologically safe and mentally health cultures inside of their organizations so that their best doctors and nurses and healthcare providers will not only desire to stay, but will feel seen, heard, respected, valued, and will
Mm.
want to make their organization the career home. That's what I
Ooh,
do.
I love it. I love it. Where are you located?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, wow. Well, hello, hello, Atlanta.
Yes.
Hello, hello. All righty. So, let's get right into this. Now, we are now at the beginning of a new year, and this is 2024.
Mhm.
Now, yeah, well, I'll say yesterday, as in last year, you probably had like a really, really big year. Tell us, what were some of your tangible wins of 2023, the tangible
Wow.
wins in your business?
Yes. Well, so the biggest one was that I doubled my revenue from
Mm,
2022. And so that was exciting. And
absolutely.
then, yeah, absolutely. And then thanks to listening to the EntreMD podcast, I took on doing at least 4 podcasts per month. So from
Mm.
April all the way to the end of the year, I was booked. And sometimes even more. Sometimes it was 5, sometimes it was 6. I did more podcasts from April to December than I have done pretty much my whole career.
Wow. And this was just following some of the principles from the Entree MD podcast, because at that point
Correct.
you hadn't even joined the school.
Correct. Correct.
Wow. So when we talk about that, so now you have doubled your revenue from 2022 to 2023, and then now
Mhm.
you're putting yourself out there more on
Yeah.
the speaking circuit, right? So
Yes.
now tell us, what were some of the intangible wins of 2023 within your business?
I think the biggest intangible win was getting clear about the direction that I need to go in my
Mhm.
business. I mean, I have 2 verticals inside of my business. So I also do NLP trainings and certifications. But then what I needed to get clear about, what do I need to focus on? And I think going through listening to the podcast and getting closer and closer to making my decision about joining EBS. And I would say that was probably a huge intangible at that moment win, which is turning
Mhm.
into tangible.
I love it. I love it. All righty. So, what were some of your business lessons of 2023? We have our ups and our downs, but
Mhm.
within EBS, we don't call them failures because they're
Yeah.
not. If it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, we know that it's a lesson. So, tell us,
Mhm.
what was some of your biggest lessons within 2023 within your business?
Well, I would say the biggest lesson is how the kids say, you're doing too much. And so I think I was doing too much. And this is directly related to, you know, focusing on too many
Mm,
things, saying yes to too many things that weren't completely aligned with my ultimate vision and values and purpose. And so,
mm.
like, again, having that lesson helps me to refocus and know, okay, what direction am I going to? So that was like one of the biggest things, is just I was just doing way too much. I was unfocused. I was all over the place,
Mhm.
and I wasn't even clear. I wasn't clear about my messaging.
And that's interesting because I feel like a lot of people within business, we all go through that phase where you're trying to figure things out. And so you're in so many different areas at so many different times. And some of it is not really aligned with what you want.
Mhm.
But like you said, you were scattered. You're like, I know I want to do things, but in really keeping in momentum, you were just going, going, going. And so part of the lesson is focus. So
Yes. Yeah. And
focus.
then part of it too was like, I think the big lesson was I had to actually decide who I was going to talk to. Because
Mm,
that was the other thing, is I wasn't even clear about who I was talking to. I wasn't exactly clear about what was the problem I was solving. And
mhm.
so these were some of the lessons that I realized were slowing my growth. Like, even though I doubled my revenue, this was like be like walking through sand when it could be much easier and I could be getting a lot, be doubling, tripling, 10xing,
Mhm.
my revenue.
I love it. I love it. Alrighty. So now that you've picked up some of those lessons, how would you say the business school has helped you at this point? We're now 21 days within the business school. So someone who's listening to this, they're really at the beginning and they're
Mhm.
hearing someone that's at the beginning of her journey who already doubled her revenue last year, but is now moving from just listening to the podcast, the EntreMD podcast, to being part of the EntreMD Business School.
Mhm.
So tell us, how has the school been for you at this point?
Oh my goodness. This has been the most amazing 21 days that I have had the pleasure of experiencing. And I'll tell you why. I think that the very first thing, first of all, there's a massive library and I'm so into, like being on the CEO power hours and the EBS live calls with Dr. Una that sometimes I forget the libraries there. When I first started, I like dove into the library. And for me,
Mhm.
I knew what was my priority, and that was figure out my messaging, figure out what the problem I solved. And as soon as I did that, like my messaging has become so clear, and I've already booked a 5K speaking engagement for March. And I've
Wow.
connected with another young lady who's actually, I've been making some big asks. So
Mhm.
another physician who's pitching me to her organization for a potential speaking engagement in February. And like I'm just like reaching out bigger and
Mhm.
more confidently and more clearly than I have in the past couple of years.
Wow. And this is all within 21 days.
This is within 21 days. And I love the book club. That has really helped as well. It's helped me to like make my goals bigger and really
Mhm.
like visualize and see my future self. For those who are listening, our book this month was Be Your Future Self Now. And I just finished it like a couple of days ago. And I tell
Mhm.
you what, it really has helped me visualize, okay, what is my future self going to be thinking and
Mhm.
how is she going to be living? And
Mhm.
it just makes me then, well, what do I have to do now? How do I pull that into the now to be able to get those results?
I love it. I love it. With all that people are hearing and listening, there's still some people that are like, "No, no." What would you say to someone who is on the fence about deciding to join the EntreMD Business School? They're like, well, I mean, I could do the podcast and, maybe I could just read the book. But tell them, what is the difference when you're literally inside the EntreMD Business School?
Listen, I was on the fence for a very long time. At the very beginning of 2023, said, I think this is going to be my year. And now I'm like, why did I wait the entire year? Because I can imagine if I got the results by listening to a podcast that I got, imagine what could have happened if I had been in the school. And so I made the choice to join the school. And in the
Mhm.
first month, I'm having results. Dr. Tamara, I have been on this week alone, this week, three
Week.
guest podcasts. No,
Wow.
four, including this one. I've
Yes.
recorded four guest podcasts. I was going for a month.
Yes.
I've already had four in the last week, and I recorded three last week. And I've already booked out three in February and two in March. So, like,
Wow.
that's just an example of even the visibility that
Mhm.
I'm getting and the people I'm reaching out to is elevating. So I say for those who are on the fence, eh, the podcast is great. And if you really want to make a difference, don't settle for the
Mhm.
podcast.
Mhm.
Just jump in. And I'm telling you, jump in and get to work. You will start to see those results.
Wow, I love it. Jump in and get to work. So even
Mhm.
though you're working on the outside, once you get on the inside of the EntreMD Business School and get to work, you'll start to see those results. And
Yes.
the great thing about it too is that you're amongst other people who are doing it, right?
Absolutely. And that's, I think, the most inspiring part is that you get in and you see people who have been in for a while and you see the results that they're producing. And you can say, wow, I'm just in. That's going to
Mhm.
be me in a year. That's going to be me in 2 years. That's going to be me. And, like people have been in for a couple of years and they're hitting their, their, their goals, their 6 and 7 figure goals. And I just look at them like, okay, that is going to be me. That's going
I
to be
love
me
it.
in 1 or 2 years. And it makes you dream bigger too, you know? And I
Yeah.
want to just say one other thing. And this is a thing that was a barrier for me that I want to like communicate. I think part of the reason that I was nervous about joining, it
Mhm.
wasn't really the financial aspect, it was really the time aspect. I was
Mhm.
afraid that I wouldn't be able to keep up with the commitments that I would, like of the business school, and thus,
Mhm.
potentially waste money. For me, here's what I discover. When you
Mhm.
put something in your future, your life aligns to it.
Oh.
And as soon as I made the decision to
Mhm.
join, my brain already did the work. Like, okay, well, this is how we're gonna work the kung fu schedule. And okay, now when we do the EBS lives, it's perfect because my son is doing bath time. And then I prepped him. I said, okay, during this time, I'm gonna be in my power hour. And it just works out, and it works out perfectly. And I
Wow.
have and I have the time. I have the time to do the work even outside of the power hours and outside of the so it's your business, it's your baby, and
Mhm.
you're going to be motivated to do the work. So
Mhm.
that's I wanted to share that because I know that when
Yeah.
I've talked to people from the inside who I'm like, you need to come join the business school, that's been an objection, and it was for me. But your
Mm.
life just aligns when you put it in your future.
I love it. Your life begins to align. Once you make that decision, then
Mhm.
things really align and then you start to get elevated. And
Yeah.
that's the thing about time, right? That's another thing when time adjusts
Yes.
because people will ask, well, how can you do all these things? And you look and you're like, it just adjusts
It
to
does.
the capacity to allow you to get these things done. And then
Yeah.
you're even with others who will show you ways on how to do it and also ways on the shortcuts.
Yes.
So the great part of being inside is that, like you're saying, that you get the community, you get the support,
Mhm.
and then you get that acceleration,
That's right.
which is where you're going. So if within 21 days you've already booked, based on what I've calculated, it sounds like almost between 9 and 11 podcasts.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's 21 days. I
Yes.
cannot imagine what the rest of the year unfolds for you. I definitely have to get you back on within like the next couple months for us to really see what is going on with Dr. Maiysha now. If in
Yes.
21 days this is what it is, I cannot wait. So with that, we're going to conclude this wonderful conversation of inside the EntreMD Business School with Dr. Maiysha, who within 21 days, she is off to a rocket start. Now, we want to, of course, have you guys come and join us. So we cannot wait to have you guys also be on the inside of the EntreMD Business School along with us. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time.